Will you put it on my Facebook page as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks.
Once it pops up on mine, then I'm able to start sharing it places. Sometimes it takes a minute. I know that we're live now, but I do also know that it takes a minute to start popping up and showing. So there we are. Okay. Oops. Good morning and good evening. We're just sharing this. Feel free, you guys, before we get started in our talk, get a few more people in here. Feel free to share it in places that you know people will love listening to us banter back and forth about really exciting things, I think. So it's great to see your face, Colin. I love this. I'm going to see if I can get this in one more spot here. Make sure we've popped up on YouTube. I know we have some YouTube followers that have had a little bit of a challenge finding us in the past. So make sure we're working there. Hey, everybody. I see people popping in. Beautiful. Okay. Do you have a Telegram channel yet, Colin?
No.
Okay.
But I find if when you start going into many different channels and social media sites, it's too much for me to manage.
Yeah. It does get a little bit crazy. Okay. It would be nice if there was a place like, we're doing this restream, like there's a place you could put all of them. I'm sure there is. And then just hit one little button and all of the stuff goes everywhere. So if somebody hasn't done that yet, that would be fantastic. But I know that there's a lot of infighting with who owns what and who gets to stream where and all that good stuff. Awesome. I'm seeing people pop in. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? I'm going to open my chat here so I can see. Sometimes I don't see your comments. And if I didn't get to a question or I didn't see you, I apologize. It's literally because it didn't come through on one of the devices or one of the areas I'm looking at. So, wow, we are going to have a really serious conversation today. I think this is really serious. And so feel free to drop into your hearts and really take an opportunity to hear this conversation with your heart and bring your heartfelt questions to the table. And we'll do the best that we can to answer them. We're going to talk about, Colin says, putting on the mantle of God, and I say wearing God's armor, and I think they're both the exact same thing. His English is much better than mine. It's proper. I'm a little sloppy, but however we look at this, it's really about bathing yourself in God's love. And so, we don't want to sound preachy. This isn't what any of this is about, but we really want to bring you into your heart center, especially with what's going to be happening this week and moving forward into the future. There's going to be a lot of shifts and changes that are really going to be propelling us into new vibrations and new things, that new responsibilities, new ways. And so it's really going to be important to understand what wearing the mantle of God is, putting on the mantle of God. What is that? How do we connect? What does that mean? Colin, what does it mean when you say put on the mantle of God?
Well, it goes back to what our soul, the purpose of our soul is. What are we doing here? What is our purpose here? And those who follow my teachings will know that I speak about soul evolution and through the multi-dimensional fields of reality. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but I explain it in my courses and how it works. So I won't go into it here in detail. But having said that, everything that is manifest in our holograms is a soul. So trees are souls, plants are souls, and they have a soul template. And this soul template comes from the universal creation and design system. And so how it works is you might evolve in your first evolution. We become consciously aware, and that is what life is. And the soul, when the soul is first formed, it becomes consciously aware of itself and its environment. Prior to that, there is no soul, and the formation of the soul comes from the intersection of a light and sound wave that are in harmonic resonance with each other that creates a spark. And when that spark ignites, it creates a morphogenetic field, which then creates atoms. Atoms create molecules. Molecules become cells. And then they begin the cellular structure of this hologram they become aware of. And a soul might usually will come in as an amoeba form. So that's the sort of lowest rank of evolution. And then the amoeba would become a microbial. The microbial might evolve to organic being, like a tadpole. And then the tadpole might evolve to a frog, and then the frog might evolve to a bird or a fish, and there are no two soul evolutionary paths that are the same. You can be have many experiences of being many different things. So many of us, as I do, I have soul memory of being an animal. I have soul memory of being an elephant. I have a soul memory of being a wolf. But that's to the extent. I can't remember being a vegetable or any kind of form of vegetation. I know once I was an avian, a bird, but I don't have any soul memory of that. It's just what I was told. And so there's this whole process. Now, what is the purpose of the soul? The purpose of the soul is to provide service to others, and in doing so, to become more like God, because it's a stair-step process of evolving from an amoeba to become more like God, and it goes through many layers and many multi-dimensional structures, and we're in a particular time now where we are talking about evolving into the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. And
Okay.
that
I want to
we call
stop
it.
you. I want to stop you there because this is going to get really good, but I'm going to go back just a little bit because there are some people, myself included, and I'm not saying that this is a construct that I believe in, but there's information that floats around about the soul. Okay. And when people start saying, oh, your soul is, puts it into a box this way. So everyone's teachings have a different idea of soul and soul evolution. And I know when I was first reaching out to ask questions to people, I was told certain things about the soul that didn't resonate with me, but there's not a lot of people that can help you understand this. So basically, I want to go back to let's go back to a tree. Let's say there's a banana tree, okay? And this banana tree has a soul. Now, once I pick a banana off that tree, is there a soul in the banana or is it only in the tree?
You see, that's where people have got the wrong idea about evolution.
Yes.
Evolution has nothing to do with the physical evolution. The evolution of species is based on the universal creation and design system, okay, and template. So it's the evolution of the soul that determines the physical appearance of the matter being.
Thank you. And here's another one, because this is gonna, and I'm just gonna toss these out there because I've heard these questions myself. So within the hologram, there is it when is the hologram created only when our mind creates it, and does it become alive with structures, cellular structures and morphogenetic fields because we agree that it comes into, or was it always there? Do you see what I mean? Like, does a wooden chair have a soul? And if it has a soul, is it only having a soul because I'm identifying that that's a wooden chair?
No, you identify that as a wooden chair because you were once a tree. So, as somebody who was once a tree, that goes into your soul memory, and so you become consciously aware and intelligent enough to recognize that as wood, not just because you've been told it's wood, but you know it's wood. So it's very difficult because people tend to only view their reality through their eyes and their five senses: the eyes, ears, mouths, smell, taste, and touch. So they don't see the world through the eyes of their soul, which is the sixth sense. And the sixth sense comes, the eye of the soul is the pineal gland. And people don't understand that the pineal gland sees what cannot be seen. Now,
Beautiful.
and it's called intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so we don't use our God mind, which is the intuitive mind. We try to use our brain, but our brain is just a processor. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a thinker. Your brain doesn't think. It's not able to produce thought. It just processes whatever the senses are telling it, and it's the soul that actually is cognitively aware and is able to recognize through its soul memory. And memory is not held within the body; it's held within the soul. So people tend to think of themselves as being a body that has a soul, but in reality, it's the soul that creates the body. And what is the soul? The soul is a field of energy that is designed in a certain way. It has a certain construct. It has an energy generator. It has an energy transmission field. It has an energy distribution field. And that distributes the energy to the body. So the body we have is generated by the soul. That is why I was able to go into higher dimensional spaces, because it wasn't my body that traveled there. It was my consciousness, my soul that traveled there. And when I reached there, I could reproduce my body there, but reproduce it in a form that was not three-dimensional, but it could be a higher dimensional form, like a semi-etheric and then an etheric body, and understand that. So it's the soul that's really in control of what is here. The trouble is people have never taken, they don't take control of their soul. They don't understand their soul purpose. They don't understand how does the soul work? What is the purpose of the soul? And the purpose of the soul is to put on the mantle of God and to evolve into more of God. So, if I can summarize it by saying our purpose here is to be God to ourselves and God to each other. But we have to raise our standards and really be determined to hold those standards in integrity. So, what that means is if you have a standard and you think in the standard and you do something different or you say something different, that's not integrity. You're not being in integrity with your soul. And so what people do, they try to be like other people, and they just can't accept that who they are is like God in a
My
sense.
my friend Alan sent this morning um, a meme, and it's it's that famous one of those like paintings of Jesus, with the halo above his head, praying basically at a rock, and it says, uh, "Are you there, God? It's me, you." So, and the catchphrase is, when you know who you really are, but you still need advice from yourself. I thought that was great. That was fantastic.
And let me give you an example from my own perspective. In 2003, before I woke up, I was really involved in the drug culture. And I smoked, I drank, I was partying every night, 4 to 5 nights a week. I was involved in a lot of sexual promiscuity. I was I could be determined was my girlfriend described me as a jolly criminal.
Oh dear, I'm not sure I would want that title.
Yeah, no, I was, I was pretty messed up as a person, and to suddenly be confronted with this notion that I should become more like God was just, I couldn't understand it. How do I do that? And in 2006, because I woke up 2003, had 3 years of training. 2006, I was told I was invited to become a grit keeper or to stay in the higher dimensions where I had been communicating with my higher self. And they said, "Do you want to go back and live on Earth again, or do you want to stay?" And I said I would rather go back, although it was tempting to stay there because it's so unlike Earth, but I'm grateful that I had that experience, because now I can speak from that experience and speak for what it's like to put on the full mantle of God, because they live to the highest standards and values that we can't imagine. We don't see it here on this planet, because this planet is ruled by, a group of higher dimensional beings, but who have fallen. They don't hold to the standards of God. They have broken away from the God system. They've broken away from the universal system, creation and design system, and created their own design in what is called the astral fields. So they created a replica of the universal and design system, but at a different frequency. Now, a holographic field is what is also called by my higher selves a reality field within a certain bandwidth of harmonic frequencies of light and sound. And within that those bandwidths, we are able to project our reality. And it's like you're watching a TV program, and when you change the channel, you change it to a different bandwidth, and then your bandwidth changes, so the picture you see changes. And it works something like that in the sense that we are living in an harmonic bandwidth of the co-harmonic frequencies of light and sound. And it works. And I've explained in my courses how it works, because it's like the golden mean ratio creates the harmonics of light and sound. And because it's 1.3666 and something. So the relationship between each frequency is 1.3666, whatever that ratio is, because it's not a constant ratio. It does change slightly depending on, where one is. But that's basically how it works. It's the harmony between different sounds and different colors of light. And in that bandwidth of harmonics, light and sound, we experience and are able to project who we are and experience our reality, because each one has a different reality, each one has a different experience, but we all within it's like we're all within one theater, and we're all seeing the same picture, but we're all having a different experience of the picture we've seen. So, it kind of works like that.
Thank you for that. I love that you're bringing up the golden ratio, the concept of this, the concept of our numbers and our geometries, and some of the things that we see in our fields, in these fields that you're talking about, these light and sound frequencies. We can see mathematical distortions. Sometimes we see that the Fibonacci spirals aren't, things are just in the wrong place and being used incorrectly. And so you're talking about these beings, and then this is just what we've been talking about, and what is happening on the planet. But building the astral fields, now this is a little bit complicated. So when we move into the astral fields, we look at the astral realms, at least I do, coming from the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional aspects of time. And so this would be the second harmonic universe. That being said, this is still part of our body. So are the astral fields like their parallels on top? Is it like they put a dress code on top of our actual bodies here, or are all of these dimensional aspects infiltrated? Does that make sense? So like if we go, like the first place we would go is into the astral before we start traveling. That's what we hit first. There's no way around it, right? So is there an organic astral versus their controlled astral is my question. And is it because our math is messed up in the body?
Yeah, how the astral fields work. They've used the Fibonacci sequences to create an imploding spiral. Okay. Now, there is another form of mathematics that is called the crystal spiral. The crystal spiral, and that is the spiral that is used in the universe to create matter, form, geometry, consciousness, actually. So it's the crystic spiral that is organic and natural, and the Fibonacci spiral is not organic and it's unnatural.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's so important for people to know and understand, especially people that are doing session work, because when you see these Fibonacci spirals, it's important to understand that this is causing a distortion in the body and does not help soul evolution. So.
Yeah, but I just want to add that one shouldn't attribute good or evil to a spiral. A spiral is just a mathematical sequence of related numbers that creates a certain geometry. So, people demonize sometimes the Fibonacci spiral, but when you can accept that is the spiral in which we experience our reality, in this reality, we can learn about the crystic spiral and volunteer our consciousness to go into that space and time, which I had to do in order to go to higher dimensions.
Beautiful.
Because the Fibonacci spiral keeps you spiraling downwards. It's a self-defeating cycle. That's why we've been experiencing the same thing over and over and over again. It's just the scenery and the furniture that changes.
That's what I say about our government system. Just because you get a new president or a new CEO or whatever the case may be, I'm like, well, new management, same owners.
Yeah. Yeah. And to get out of that spiral, out of the Fibonacci spiral and the spiral we're in, we have to jump, almost like jump ship, if I can put it that way, because we are on maritime law, which they're determined by the law of the sea, and it's all about shipping. Now, if you look at the language that is used around relationships, we have relationship, friendship, you know, my mind's just gone a bit blank here. We have friendship, relationship, kinship,
all the ships. It's
all the words with ship at the end. And that is language, part of the word spells that were placed under to keep us on the land law of the sea instead of the law of the land. Now, you know, it's not what I was really wanting to talk about tonight, but there is a lot of black magic that is being used on humanity. But having said that, it's humanity's own fault because they haven't fully woken up to the fact that they are under control of another force who created an alternative system and has kept them spiraling around and repeating themselves over and over again in that system. So to get out of that spiral, they have to create higher standards and values. And what we need here is a moral regeneration in order to get out of the problems we're in. And it's the only way we're going to ascend, really, because it depends on us. You know, my higher selves and our soul family said, you know, that they can do whatever they can do, but they don't want to control that they are not satanic beings. They don't want to control us. So one of the things they kind of reinforced within me is that you have to take back control of yourself. You have to have self-control. And so when I woke up in 2006 and I decided to come back here, my high self said, well, what sort of standard and value are you going to, apply? And I thought about it for a couple of days, actually. And then I met with him again. I said, I think I know what I should do. And he said, what is that? And I said, this is going to be the standard, the flag that I'm going to battle with. Anything less than love is not acceptable, neither to me or from me. And that's the standard I live by. And I've been living by since 2006. So if anybody comes with dissonant noises and nonsense like we've had in the last 2 years, that's their shit. It's not mine. I don't take on that stuff. You know, for me, I know that love is a central creative power in the universe, and love will conquer all. And if one has that standard of anything less than love is not acceptable, neither to me or from me, and using that standard and value, life just became a lot easier because I could think in that way. So when I examined my own actions, I said, was that a loving and kind, compassionate thing to do? When you're impatient, is that loving and kind? When you're disrespectful, is that loving and kind? And so I built up this value system that I had to do because this world doesn't have adhere to their standards and values. They have standards and values, but they're just intellectual standards and values. They don't live by those standards and values. And when one lives in integrity with one's own standard and values, it's very, very difficult. What I'm talking about is not theoretical because I had to experience that for myself, and a question all the time. What did I do? Why did I do that? What did that person make me feel like? Why did I react to that person in that way? So it's a continuous adjustment that one makes to the course one wants to go in. And so, it's hard work. Like I did a post yesterday about waking up. And I said, it's like going through a military training program, where you have to learn you have to learn emotional and mental resilience. You have to learn tactical methods, and it's very rigorous. So I'm not talking about something which is going to be easy for people.
Right. It's
But
not easy.
having said that, it does get easier the more you adhere to it.
Because you live it, because you become it, and because
Yeah.
you've transformed into it. So at first it's like the universe meets you back with, oh, you're going to be serious about this? Well, guess what? Everything is going to come down in your path. Buildings are going to come tumbling down. You have built these beautiful nests in your light body of comfort, just these beautiful little places that entities and demons and negative or darker spiritual forces create comfort. I kind of look at that as like yeast or parasites in the body, even, and that create thought processes, and it's like taking down the cobwebs. It's like going to purchase an old rickety house with property that floods. Let's just be a little dramatic here. And you have to put in a drain system. You have to rebuild the foundation because it's crumbling. And so there are all these things you have to go in, and you have to make the choice to be a galactic warrior. You make the choice to become God to yourself. You make the choice to become a parent to yourself, to understand the difference between inorganic and organic, alien versus human, antichrist versus Christ. It's a process, and you will battle on your way, mentally, physically, emotionally. And it's to tell the universe, I'm fucking serious here. Right. And tell you just stand up and say, you kind of do that scream, like, is that all you got, bitches? Right. Like, pardon my expression, but like, that's how it feels. And when you get past that part, it's like, whew, okay, now the days are going to start getting easier. Now I can stand in my love, frequency, and authority. Now I can look at, the people that have hurt me. They didn't hurt you. You allowed them to. You gave away your power. And so understanding that somebody else didn't do that to you, you allowed them, you gave them a piece of your power, and really start to understand what that looks like and what that feels like and what it feels like to become God to yourself, within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. In 2006, I also made a vow to myself, a vow of celibacy, poverty, and chastity. Not you, but to be
I always
chaste.
say my dad named me Chastity as a sick joke, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad I did that, because at the time I didn't really understand what that meant. But once having done that, I realized that over time, I was losing more and more thoughts of lust and thinking of women as sexual objects. And now I've developed into a stage where I see the feminine form as beautiful, um, godlike, equal to men. I see them as wonderful companions. They have so many attributes that I admire, so I can admire them objectively without thinking about them in a sexual way. And I'm not saying that one should abstain from all, natural, natural. What's the word I'm looking for? Physical contact, natural affection. That's the word I was looking for, because one can be naturally affection, but if you move lust into its proper position, then you put love back in charge. And when love is in charge, lust loses its value. in your life. So it becomes secondary. It's not the most important thing. Before that in my life, sex was a very important thing to me. It was one of the ways I expressed myself, and I thought this was, my kind of goal in life was to see how many women I could have sex with. But I also recognized afterwards, after I'd woken up, that I treated women like sexual objects. When I saw a woman, I thought, is she good looking? No, good, and then if I thought she was attractive, then the charm would be turned on, and I'd say the nice things and buy the nice gifts and take them to the movies and dinners and so on, and eventually I'd have sex with them. And once I stopped that nonsense of lusting after women, love began to take over, and I no longer see women as sexual objects, which is great because I see them as wonderful, wonderful beings and great companions on the planet, which they ought to be, and they are. But if you can take out the lust from a relationship, and a man shouldn't lust after his wife. A man must love his wife. And the sexual response, the natural affection that comes from a relationship that is loving, should be natural between two loving people, two people who love each other, and expressing that in an affectionate way. I don't call it the sexual way because the term sex to me just is anathema. It doesn't express the beauty of being affectionate with another person and how much pleasure one can get from that. So I've abstained from sexual contact since 2006, but I'm glad I did because now it's put into proper perspective who I am and what love is. So I can love people more deeply and lovingly and naturally and organically without dragging lust into it.
I love this. I love this. Thank you. When we look at there, I know you didn't want this to sound like a sermon when we go into this conversation today, but when we look at the energy created behind lust, lust is also in alignment with addiction, and I see things always as programs, and so Asmodee is a demonic entity, and is in the hierarchy of being in charge of lust. And when we look at what lust brings to the planet, it does take us not only further away from love, but it is the energy, part of the energy structure that is created, that they use, the fallen angelics have used to run their power grid systems. So there's an entire field called Baphomet fields, and this is where they take our sexual energies, our fear energies, and they pull them and siphon them into these grids. And this goes into it really goes into so much detaching and being anti-human. This goes into being anti-human, although lust is a human thing, and they understand how the body works. And because they understand the mechanics of the soul, the mechanics of the spirit, they understand this. They then know how to harvest these energies. When physical encounters with another being is so extremely powerful, this is what they try to recreate. So they put us in these descending spirals, if you will, to continue to then pull down into their fields the energies that they can take from us. That's how I see it. And getting that out is so important. You have no idea. People are worried about this, like, oh my gosh, if I never have sex again, what is that going to do? Or it's really hard to separate. It's really hard to make those decisions in life. It's hard to make those choices because you feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah, that's very sad. That in 2006, when I made that decision, I still had doubts about it, and I thought, well, how am I going to live on my own and not have a woman around? Because before that, I had lived a life where I was in and out of relationships all the time, and I thought, how can I possibly do this? Because living on my own is going to be like a crisis for me, because I've always been used to having people around me and having someone cook my dinner and wash my clothes and clean my house, and someone to talk to, someone I can share things with, someone who I can take an interest in, and just that companionship that one had. But fortunately, I had the companionship of my higher self, who was able to help me through the process of getting through that need that I thought I had. But it's a word spell. It's, as you say, an addiction on this planet, because what is sounds closest to lust as a word?
Must
Just.
or just, yeah, just.
Lust and just. They're two opposites. And lust leads one to injustice, you see. And if one goes to how they create words that sound similar, lust and just, and then we think that, it's okay to be lustful. What is lust? It's like having sexual feelings about another person. But is that just? What, are we allowed to think that we can, what's the word I'm looking for? Are we allowed to break the space of another sovereign being and impose ourselves physically on them? And unfortunately, many people, especially in this country, we're the rape capital of the world in South Africa, where men force themselves on women all the time. And if you have all this lust, you will never have justice. So it becomes a social illness in society. And I think people who think that lust is okay have no understanding of the human rights that other people have. You may not enter into the field of another person. And I'm very careful about this when I approach, whether it's men or women. I'm very careful about the space between us. And it's only when I'm invited into another person's space that I will go there.
I
And
love that.
and people have always found this a bit odd about me. Come on, come along with us. I said, well, I haven't been invited.
It's
Need an
kind
invitation? I said, yeah,
that's
I need an invitation. I'm not
I
a
watch
gay person.
I watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the vampires have to be invited to come into your home, right? Which then, and this we can take this into a whole thing, because vampires are supposed to be all like lustful and all of these things. So I find that quite poignant in the conversation. Of course, I have to bring it to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it's really challenging because we're intrusive with our thoughts as well as our bodies. And there's a self responsibility and a self mastery that, as physical humans, we've not ever been taught that. We've not been taught that our thoughts are things. We're not taught that. Why do I feel uncomfortable? Why do I feel like someone's staring at me or thinking about me? Well, because someone is across the room, like staring at you and thinking about you. But we don't know how to interact with this until we've really understood the mechanics of the soul and how to operate from this space.
Yeah. Yeah, and lust is not just about sex. People can lust after other people's belongings and lust after other people's gifts and lust after other people's, rightful spaces. And so, it goes back a long way in our history, this lusting after other people's property, which goes back to that word just. Is it just to lust? Maybe that might become a meme one day. Is it?
Maybe that's your new T-shirt.
No, I want to keep lust out of it. Yeah, but it's over the years. You just hit the nail on the head. People don't. They can't imagine that they can be masters of their own universe, that they can master themselves and being self-controlled. Because if one wants to raise one's frequencies to a higher level, then one has to raise your standards to a higher level, because you can only raise your standards to the level of, you can only raise your frequencies to the standards you hold, and the standards that you hold in integrity and authenticity. Do I hold to my own standards, or other people setting the standards for me?
And then here comes people, and this is going to be the universe's way of saying, are you serious? Because you're going to come across family members, friends, and other people that will say things like, who do you think you are? Well, you think you're better than me? Or people saying, you're never going to be able to change your ways, or I liked the old Colin, I don't like the new Colin. And so then, and these are things that this really truly happens. And then we're faced with self-defeating thoughts. Then we're
Yeah,
faced with, oh my gosh, am I becoming, what's happening to me? Should I even be doing this? And then we start to go into, we can go into a descending spiral super fast. So what does somebody do when people that they love are saying, what's happening to you? I can't stand you anymore. Or people just fall away. How do you get through that? Because I hear a lot of my friends even, oh, I don't have a partner. I'm going to be alone my whole life. And I think to myself, gosh, if only we were alone. I wonder what that would be like, right? Like, what does it feel like to actually truly be alone? It's loneliness or emptiness is not it's not the truth. It
yeah,
is it's it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist except in your own mind. How do you help people get through these? Even a
yeah.
friend of mine said to me, Chastity, do you think you're ever going to like find somebody? And I was like, other than myself? Probs not. Right? Like, I don't know. But they feel sorry for you, right?
Yeah, the goal should not be to find somebody. The goal should be to make yourself so desirable that others will want to be with you. And you
I
can then
agree.
choose from the basket of fruit which one you want to be with.
Yes.
Uh, that should be the goal, being the person that you want to live with, being the kind of person, being the person that can you can give to another person, and be prepared to live with all their synchronicities. That's not the word I was looking for. All, all their traits and so on. So, yeah, it's as I said, this path of awakening is not an easy one. People should have no doubt about it. But having said that, it does become easier. And the more one begins to master it, and one has to work hard at mastering anything, that any skill in life, you need to, you go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious incompetence into conscious competence. So it's a process, a learning process that we have to go through. And but so in that learning process, what is the goal? And that's what people lose sight of. What is the goal? What do we what is our goal as awakened people? Well, of course, it's to change this planet and to put it into a higher a state of consciousness, a state of consciousness that is just, and also to defeat the fallen ones. And to defeat the fallen ones, you can't fight evil with evil. You can only fight evil with good.
Yes, never fight them on their own ground.
Yeah, let them come onto your ground,
Mm-hmm.
and and then pick a fight with you on your ground, which they will never do
Mm-hmm.
because
Exactly.
they're afraid of us.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
as long as you can keep us afraid, then they are going to win.
that's right. That's right. So so this is going to be about, we're talking about the planetary shift, talking about embodying the soul, which is really the first step of, moving into putting on God's armor. And so how do we take back the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions? Is that automatically going to? Are we going to feel a significant shift here, and will it become easier for people to attain because the vibratory sense of the planet, or is it still going to be super challenging for people? I feel like the planet, because of the shift, is going to be a little bit easier. But what does that really mean? Does that mean that should we be chanting, "Bring my soul back, bring my soul back, bring my soul back"? Like, what are people going to do? How can they best call out to themselves to really begin to embody their souls?
As I said in the beginning, it's raising your standards and values and living authentically and in integrity with those standards and values that you set. Don't let other people set you. I'm not setting standards and values for other people here tonight. They must choose for themselves. And I will never judge anybody if they don't live up to my standards and values, because my standards and values are mine. I don't want everyone to have my standards and values. It'd be nice if they did, but I respect everyone's right to choose and to live the life that they want. And that's the way the universe works. Unfortunately, we can't choose for other people, but however, we can make the right choices for ourselves, and that's what it's all about. Make people making the right choices for themselves, and to make right choices, you have to raise your standards and values, and if we can create a moral regeneration of this planet, because people don't understand how morally degenerate this planet is. Our higher self family, I lived amongst ETs for a while, and they are terrified of humans because they consider humans so unstable, and they have such low values, and they also ignorant, and humans have been indoctrinated into a dogma of evil on this planet, and so they will look at us from a distance, and it's like we're in a stadium that is filled with mud, and our soul family are in the seats in the stadium saying, "Hey, come on, humans, come on, humans," but they want us to get out of the mud.
Yeah.
It's up to us to do the work to get out of the mud. And they provide stairs for us to get out of the mud. But we have got to decide to go there and get out of the mud.
I love it. My mind is so busy right now. I can't put my thoughts in one place, but I just feel, so I'm just going to share what I'm feeling is all of these colors and swirling vibrations and sound frequencies. And so when I see this, to me, this is about creating. This is about, really stopping and putting things into perspective of who and what we truly are and what influences us and how, because we can allow anything to influence us that we choose to. And by the time I'm going back to word spells here because everything before it's manifest, it's unmanifest. And so I think about how long it takes for something to come down from colors and vibrations into the physical body, and how dense that is, and what that does to our thought process, what that does to our organ system, our digestive system, because our energetic digestive system is digesting, and then our body digests it. And then, we spit it out into words. It's this long process. And, so what are some ways, I know raising our standards and values, but what are some ways that people can connect quietly to their soul and feel something that feels like a soul? Because people say, I can't connect to my heart. And and some people are tormented mentally and have so many they're already self-defeating from the second they start. So it can be really hard to even take that first step, or to even raise the standard and value. Is there like a breathing exercise just to try to pull somebody in for a minute so they have a moment to gather themselves? Is there like some type of breath exercise that you can recommend for people? I don't know why I'm asking that, but that's something, you know what I mean? When it just gets too much and it's so overwhelming to the system, how can we focus for a second to be able to say, okay, now how do I raise my values?
Yeah. Okay. The way I did it, and I think it's a valuable tool that one can use, is I started journaling every day. I carried a little notebook in my pocket with a pen, or my pocket and my side pocket, and every time I had a strange thought, or I'd write it down and say, where did that thought come from? Or if I felt an emotion, if someone came into my space and I felt afraid of them, or if I felt guilty before they even spoke to me, why did I do that? Because that becomes what is called self-knowledge. And once you have self-knowledge, you have the knowledge of God, because that's what we are. We're creator gods. So the best way to do that for me was to start writing down and see the way I was reacting, and then feeding my feelings. I didn't realize when I first woke up that I didn't feel my feelings. I thought my feelings. So I had conditioned responses to certain situations, but I was hiding my feelings. So when I noticed that I was responding to people in an unemotional way, but rather in a conditioned way, I thought, well, what would be the appropriate feeling? And I would write down. And then, as we've talked about before, I wrote a long list of emotions. And I sat and said, now feel that feeling. Because I really, I was in a very bad condition, in the sense that I had no idea how to feel love, for instance. It's an extreme, but that was real for me. I really was so out of touch with my emotions. I'd only cried once before in my whole life. But once I got in touch with my emotions, like, crying almost became a daily exercise for me. Because when you feel your emotions, you realize you can feel a broad range of emotions at the same time, and you can identify them. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling that. And isn't it feel great to feel all this awe and inspiration and joy and peace, and to feel the fellowship of other people, to really, embody those emotions. And the only way I got to do that is by self-observation, by journaling. And so I'd correct. And it's self-correction is the best way. I don't advocate that people should just go to do courses or just do self-help, because someone else, no one can help you except yourself.
Right.
There are no saviors. You are it. And if you don't take that responsibility, it ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry to say that's the truth of it.
It is the truth of it, and there's been a lot of distortion out there that we have a savior, and not really understanding the difference between. So basically, people will not try to save themselves. They're not going to go into the depths of hell or into the dark corners, because they believe it's already been done for them, and so now they're justified in being the way that they are, sitting in mediocrity, and it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, and once that self-knowledge grows, okay, you become aware of the power you have to change circumstances around you. Because when you start behaving with higher values and higher standards, your language changes, your behavior changes. And from an energetic perspective, that is creating a different kind of energy. Because we don't realize that when we speak our words, we are speaking energy. Words are energy. Actions are energy in motion. So if we begin to really go deeply into understanding who we are, we're energetic beings. Our thoughts are energy. Our feelings are energy, and applying the right energy helps us to develop the potency, the power. One of the characteristics of God is he's omniscient,
Yes.
and he's omnipresent, and he's omnipotent, and all those things we have to become. and that is a hell of a task. I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you don't try, if you don't determinedly try, it ain't going to happen. So no one else can make it happen for us. We got to make it happen for ourselves.
Yep, I agree. And on that note,
We come to the end of the lollipop.
how many licks does it take? Do you remember that? Did you guys have, I don't know, do you have Tootsie Pops? I never know like what countries have certain things, but we have Tootsie Pops. And when I was a kid, we had this owl with really big eyes, and it said, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And so in the middle of this lollipop was a Tootsie Roll. So, which were my favorite lollipops for when I was a kid. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, but you said lollipop, so.
Yeah. Well,
Oh my
maybe we
gosh.
carry on this conversation next week and, putting on the full mantle of God,
Yeah.
because it has many dimensions to it and many different perspectives and aspects to it. And once people realize the power they have, I didn't understand before I woke up, and even while during my waking up, how much power we have. But now I realize how much power we have. And we have the power to change the world. We are changing the world. And if people can't see that, then they're not in touch with their power. I can see it. I can see what's happening. And it's because of humans raising their frequency. I'm not all humans, but you just need a critical mass of people to stand up. And I did a post today of the various protests around the world that happened on the 20th of November, and it was massive, and people are waking up, they're evolving, they're not prepared to put up with this tyranny that has been put on us. But it's there for a purpose, because it's revealing the tyranny. People didn't realize what tyrants their government were. They didn't realize what tyrants the World Health Organization and the World Trade Organization, the IMF, the World Bank, all these organizations, they're tyrants.
Yes. Yep.
They're not beneficial.
Narcissistic control freaks. You have new monthly classes coming up. And so this is really exciting. This is going to go beyond your writings. This goes beyond somebody just studying on their own. And so you're going to be able to do an interactive study. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it came from like interactions I had with my higher self, and he suggested that I engage with people more, and that when they can engage with me personally, and we'll be engaging about the subjects that I teach. So we'll go look at old courses and and then we'll be asking the question, how did you understand that? Do you understand it? What does it mean to you? How has it changed your life? How do you connect that with other things? How do you connect that with the other things that I've taught? So it's like trying to get the package to hang together, because the courses that I teach, really, people said, well, which one should I do first? And I make some suggestions, but in reality, they all hang together. It's one body of information. So you can start wherever you like and just work your way through them, because it all hangs together. And that's very difficult for people to understand, that we tend to think of information as being compartmentalized, and nothing relates to anything else. But the courses that I write, I try to make it a big picture, and then teach little bits of the bigger picture, but you've got to understand the big picture in order for the little bits to make sense.
Yes. And that's a little bit about what we were talking about in the class last night, was about, how time, you're writing in concentric time, you're writing in spiral time. And, because we're actually going to be stepping into that, it's going to be received a lot better. But it's going to need more step by step. Like, people's information is going to start coming in out of nowhere. And so sometimes it's just nice to have somebody say, let me help you. Let me help you integrate that into, how and why and all of that stuff. So I think that's great. I love that you're going to be doing. I love that you're going to be doing this.
Yeah, the course, people have to become a student or become a patron. The Patreon, they can become a patron on my Patreon page, and it's $3 a month, and they'll get an invite to join the classes and to attend the classes. Or they can become a student for $9.99 a month, and then they get all my courses, and then they also gain access to the live classes that I will be doing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well worth it. All right, my friend, it's just beautiful to see you. I can't wait to see. We're going to meet the day after Christmas, you guys. So December 26th is our next day. We will probably, embodying the soul doesn't just happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a week. We don't change our standards and values oftentimes in just a year. This takes time, and that's all we have. Right?
Yeah.
So might as well make it worth it.
Yeah. So much love to you, Chastity, and thank you so much for running this course. I do so appreciate it. Yeah. Much gratitude. And I'd encourage people to donate to Chastity's work, because I attended a class last night and it's really first class, good stuff, and valuable to our session for everybody, and dealt with many things, and I was very impressed with it. So go ahead and help out.
You're amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. And if we don't see anybody, happy holidays, however you celebrate them. Just sending you so much love. Be safe. Sit inside your hearts and be in the light.
Yep. Love you all.
Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.